All right, welcome everyone to the October 17th, 2023 meeting of Broward County ARES RACES. Rather than do our business meeting first, I'm going to go ahead and turn the meeting over to Julio Herrera out of Miami-Dade County, who has an amazing presentation. Well, you do. I saw it when you presented it in Dade. And talking about the behind the scenes of what happens when our communications go out, how the hams are important and what other entities are involved. So Julio, it's all yours, and you have the ability to share the screen.
Thank you. So I'm Julio Herrera, KK4KMO. I'm the president of Dade Radio Club. I'm also the assistant races officer for Miami-Dade County. I'm one of the first OXCs that gets deployed with the Florida Communications Unit, part of the ESF2 team for Florida Division of Emergency Management. We're trying to build up the OXC program for the Florida Comm Unit, and we're trying to incorporate more OXCOM within the unit. I've been deployed as an OXC for Hurricane Ian and for Hurricane Idalia. I have both videos on my YouTube if you want to see it. This last video I did is for Idalia. This is just a behind the scenes video of the response of what it takes after a disaster to get comms working again. So a lot of people don't see the behind the scenes. They just know magically overnight things work. So this is a way of documenting what the team does and what it takes to get things done. So let me share my screen. Let me make sure share with sound. Carol, you learned something new.
I did. Thank you for that. We did some test runs before the meeting.
Okay, so I'm going to mute myself so I don't echo, and then I'm going to play the video. The Big Bend in Florida, a small, quiet, and peaceful area. But that tranquility was shattered at 7:45 a.m. on August 30th, 2023.
Yes, we do have landfall. They have just confirmed it. We have landfall as of right now. So the center of the storm has officially crossed into Florida as we speak as a Category 3 storm near Keaton Beach.
As the storm passes, the Florida Communications Unit mobilizes and sends in multiple strike teams comprised of many pieces of equipment and personnel from multiple counties and agencies across the state of Florida. Upon arrival, the unit sets up base camp in the middle of the disaster area. With base camp set up, the unit receives its first briefings and tasked with its first mission. The first mission that the unit is tasked with is to investigate the loss of communication for the local fire department. After diagnosing with test equipment, the unit was able to determine the issue was caused by bad feed line and a faulty antenna. The unit will use the town's existing repeater and use a temporary tower structure to get them on the air. With the town's local repeater now powered and our tower structure now erected, the fire department now has communications restored for operations. The unit receives a mission request from a neighboring county for spotty radio coverage. After a couple radio coverage tests, the unit was able to determine the area that was affected by the spotty radio coverage. The unit will deploy this mobile communications platform to supplement the coverage gaps. Once erected, the site was connected via IP to provide a seamless transition with the existing system. A major hurdle that the unit encountered was traversing impassable roads due to downed trees, debris, and power lines. One of the major missions undertaken by the unit was the programming and cataloging of hundreds of radios for incoming first responders. In an ever more connected world, the unit was tasked with the responsibilities of providing internet coverage in areas with little or no infrastructure for EOCs, 911 centers, hospitals, and radio linking via IP. The unit was able to utilize resources such as Starlink and CRD units that provide a cellular and Wi-Fi hotspot for a geographic area. Using satellite backhaul technology, some of the hardest hit areas are now connected to the internet. A major task taken on by the unit is the inspection and maintenance of state and local county radio sites. Some radio sites were very lucky and received very minimal damage. This site here was very lucky and received no damage. The only issue being it's running on backup power via generator. Other sites such as this one received catastrophic damage and had a tower collapse. Luckily, the unit was able to deploy a single site repeater to provide coverage for this area. One of the more interesting requests was the use of a single site 6-channel trunk radio system for the use for local law enforcement. Once the radio trunking site is on the air, it provides coverage for law enforcement long into the night. And into the early morning. The success of our missions during Idalia would not be possible without the support of our ESF2 team at the state EOC and the SWIC from the state of Florida. Over the coming weeks, the unit will continue to complete numerous missions, getting creative and using the tools provided to them along the way. Some of that creativity involved creating our own power cables and adapters for power systems. One of the more creative tools that the team used was the use of Oxcom. Such as the use of WinLink to transmit data to the state EOC and the use of local SARnet repeaters to transmit voice. This is November 4, Foxtrot Charlie Uniform, Florida Communications Unit. The operator is Kilo 4, Kilo Mike Oscar. As Idalia ends, we continue to train, prepare, and exercise for when we are needed the most.
We are the Florida Communications Unit. One team, one mission.
So that was the behind the scenes video of what it took to make things happen over there. And let me stop sharing. There we go. Basically, one of the biggest things I can get anyone to do is training. Training is number one. You know, if you've never ran a net, take a net one night, run a net, run an event. If Winterfest is a great event, it's a good way of getting your feet wet and learning. Just take a bridge position and learn to pass some traffic. Your ICSs are very important. If you haven't looked into the 100, 200, 700, 800 series, those are very important. They're very, very good to take. You learn where Oxcom fits into the emergency command structure and how to operate within that structure. Also the OXC course. There's one coming up in February, right before the Orlando Hamfest. I urge you, if you're interested, to take the course. It fills up fast. Register, and get out there and volunteer. Hams make a difference, and it's not just hams. We just had our set a couple weeks ago, and we even had GMRS groups operating their own nets and passing traffic to our nets. So Oxcom encompasses everything, not just ham. But the ham community is out there, and there is a place for it in emergency response, and it's used. So, I urge you to train, to get involved, and just get out there. So thank you.
Thank you, Julio. Does anybody have any questions for Julio?
Amazing.
All right, I have a question, Julio.
Sure.
On one of the missions, I think it was your second mission, where you used their local repeater and you used one of your Oxcom towers. It looked like it was on two vehicles, a regular vehicle, a box truck type vehicle with a trailer that had the tower. You erected the tower. Once you put that tower up, does that take those two vehicles out of service?
So those are MARC units. There's one in every region in the state of Florida. So there's 7 of them deployed. Our local one is Mark 7, which BSO has custody of. The one you saw is Mark 4, which is out of Hillsborough County. They use an node rescue unit to tow it. The rescue can go on, do its own missions, and still drive around with it. But that one's pretty much out of play, and it stays at that location. It has its own onboard generator. Obviously, one of our mission tasks is make sure it still has juice in it, make sure it has fuel, check the fuel levels, and keep monitoring it. Obviously, also makes sure no one steals it. This hurricane wasn't as bad with physical security. Ian, there was a little bit more civil unrest, I'll call that, and there was a little bit more theft and looting going on. So that became an issue with physical security of our assets. So physical security is a big thing, but the vehicle that usually tows was it, you can do whatever was it, and it becomes part of your convoy. You can use it to haul equipment, personnel, but the actual tower structure pretty much stays on site. The Mark V is the one that was at the site of the tower collapse. That was there for weeks even after I left, because they had nothing else until we were able to get another unit to come in and to replace that one. So rehab of our units is also an ongoing part of monitoring what's there, what assets are still in the field, and what can we do to replace those assets to rehab them back to their home agencies.
And along the way, as you pick up tools, I imagine you're in contact with the state EOC. You put in a request through WebEOC for additional equipment, and then they'll put in that mission
Yes.
or logistics request.
So, you know, on the team, we're divided into 3 different task forces, and each task force has its own COML, and those COMLs will receive missions here and there. A lot of times they'll just get people to show up to our camp, say, hey, we heard you're here, we need this. If it's something we can handle on the spot where we have the equipment, we have loaner radios or spare equipment, we might be able to complete that on site. If it's something we don't have, then yes, we will have to put into the request via WebEOC. That would have to go through its channels, and then somehow we get the equipment. As an OXC, like I tell everyone, ham radio still has its place, but if ham radio is going to survive and be part of the incident command structure, you got to understand you're not going to be operating a radio at all times. You have to be versatile. You have to be able to do tech, IT, even if it's just fetching equipment. I drove to Tallahassee 3 times to pick up equipment from the state EOC warehouse. I literally went county to county EOC. You know, I was their main runner, going places here and there because I had a smaller vehicle. I was able to go and get things accomplished. So getting those materials sometimes is the hard part. One of the more interesting things, my mission started before the hurricane even came. We were supposed to stage in Lake County. So I drove up that Tuesday morning to Lake County. Right when I get to Lake County, no more than 10 minutes, I'm sitting there waiting for everyone else. I get a call from my COML. Hey, are you in Lake County yet? I'm like, yes. I got your first mission. Okay, what do you need? I need to drive to Daytona. I need to pick up a cache of state EOC radios. Okay, no problem. So I drove to Daytona, picked up radios. Calls me again. Hey, I need to take these radios to Volusia County. Okay, did it. As I'm driving back to Lake County, he called, hey, I need to stop in Orlando. You're picking up 6 Starlinks. So it moves at a fast pace, and you got to be prepared for anything. So getting assets on the field is the biggest thing.
At this point, you're in an Oxcom vehicle or your personal vehicle? I
was in a rental. I was in, for Hurricane Ian, I used my own vehicle. It's kind of low to the ground. I didn't know what the flooding situation was like, so I rented a bigger truck just in case. I didn't know what the flooding was going to be like.
And
we're very lucky that, there was no real flooding.
And then every time they send you somewhere, when they sent you to Daytona, did they give you a separate mission number so that you could stop at a base camp and refuel?
So you have your main base mission number when you were requested. That is your mission number that you pretty much use for everything. So as long as it's at one of the state fuel depots, you just show them your ID and you can fuel pretty much wherever. You need to keep track of your miles. Obviously, you're keeping a 214 for the entire time you're there. And it's good to note your mileage on your 214 for reimbursement purposes. I'm a volunteer. My day job is Dade County Public Schools. I'm just a volunteer for Mercy Management. So there was no reimbursement for me. Everything came out of pocket. I took 2 weeks off my own time, my own sick days, my own vacation time to go deploy. I did that for this storm. I did it for Ian, did it for Michael. So there is no reimbursement for me. I just still keep the mileage, but I'm not getting anything out of it. But if you are in a agency that will do reimbursement for you, is a great thing to have. So definitely keep track of your mileage.
And then when everything's over and done with, how does your unit retrieve all of the equipment out in the field?
So when I first went to Orlando, picked up those 6 Starlinks, I signed for those, so I was responsible for those. When it came time, you're always planning for demo throughout the event. So once it was getting close to demo, where I know, hey, they're going to send me home, I still have these Starlinks that are still assigned to me. So I just did a 213 saying, hey, I'm transferring custody of these devices to these people. They sign it, I sign it, I have a copy. So if the state DOC comes knocking on my door, I have a 213 to show, hey, no, the asset was, transferred to someone else. So documentation is a big part of it. Rehab for your equipment is very big. So, we give out loaner radios from time to time because outside agencies may come in, and many agencies have their radios locked down where we can't program them on the fly. So we have to give them a loaner radio with, NIFOG frequencies or anything or a local trunk system. And we have to keep track of it, so we have a running spreadsheet basically of what's out there on loan and what's out in the field, what assets are in the field. And you have to keep track of it and know, okay, these people are demobbing this day, make sure you get these things back. And not just the radios, but any accessories that went with it, chargers, batteries, antennas, anything that you may have given out, remote speaker mics. People like to keep those. So anything that got handed out, make sure you retrieve it, because those are assets that belong to some agency somewhere.
Anybody have any other questions for Julio?
Yeah, Julio, a question for you. So on the IP side, on the backhaul between sites, if you don't have connectivity from the local provider, as far as the IP is concerned, you guys do like microwave point to point between the sites, or how does that usually?
So there's a couple things we can do. If the existing microwave infrastructure is working, or we can get it working, where we may just borrow a dish from somewhere else to get it working. We did a lot of that during Ian. We'll get microwave stuff working and make it work. For this storm, there's a lot of trees everywhere. So a lot of trees fell on all the power lines, phone lines, fiber, you name it. They don't really have underground utilities up there. Everything was over the air. So Starlink was a savior. Starlink was a big thing. CRD units were great. Verizon has some, FirstNet has some, and those were great to deploy on the spot. And they provided an IP backhaul for some of our linking systems. So in that second or third mission, we actually linked 2 8-tack repeaters via IP to cover a large geographic area. And that was all done with, Starlink in the background.
So Starlink has been a very good product as far as low latency and whatnot for those type of applications.
It ages like fine wine. The longer you let it sit and the more it talks to the satellites and handshakes with each other, it hands off a lot better, and you'll see your latency just go down, 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 and you see your speeds go higher and higher. So Starlink was a big game changer for us, because I could tell you, Hurricane Michael up in the Panhandle, we were using Viasats, VSATs, and they're 1.5 up and down on a good day. On a disaster, everyone's pointing at the same bird at the same time, and you go down to kilobytes. So Starlink is really a big game changer. Now, just like everything, like, all these people prepare, like, you may prepare at your house with all this stuff, but if you don't practice with your equipment, you don't know what works, what doesn't. Well, a lot of these Starlinks were sitting at a warehouse and no one checked to see if they still had data plans open on them. So when we first got them out of the box, they wouldn't connect. So, we had to kind of call the state DOC and be like, hey, these are dead, wake them up. Also, Fort Lauderdale had an asset. They set it up and they figured out that whoever did their purchasing purchased the plan that geolocks their stuff. So it works great in Fort Lauderdale, did not work it over there because it was geolocked to their location. So, you have to practice, and that's what drills and exercises are all about, because you learn things.
Were a lot of the cities prepared in regards to that, or did they rely heavily on the state for support and whatnot? As far as like the infrastructure, backup, power. Because I know up there they don't really have hurricanes that often, so it's not like
So, the Big Bend area, it's a lot of lower income, small, very, very small counties. Lafayette County EOC fits in like our conference room at work. That's the entire EOC, all 4 desks are in there.
Oh.
And that's all they got. And they even had jealousy windows. So a lot of these counties, what we provided as spare loaner equipment that for us is junk, it was an upgrade for them. So there are some counties that were not prepared. They just didn't have anything. They heavily depend on mutual aid from other agencies. And then there's some like Hamilton County, they had a couple pieces of equipment, so they were pretty good to begin with. The biggest problem up there was just power. It's just there was no power anywhere, and generators was a big issue.
Julio, the SARnet is built on an IP backbone that the DOT built all over Florida. Did you guys get to tap into that, or is that just a
Yes.
sort of a closed system, or is that what you were using?
So we ended up using StarNet. Actually, one of the guys from the Mark V unit, he's a ham, and he was using StarNet during the storm to coordinate with other units over ham radio. He had a little Bofang with him in his car, and he just rigged an antenna to the roof and with a little coupler, and it worked. The Perry repeater took a power hit. It was offline for a while, so he had to use the Madison repeater. But it made it work, and StarNet became a big part of the coordination, like right during the storm and right after the storm. So it was a big part of it. And then WinLink was a big part of us sending messages. When we first got there was nothing. No Verizon, no T-Mobile, no nothing. So we were sending a lot of messages over Starlink and over WinLink. So
right, but could you tap into the IP network that DOT has put up that SARNet runs on?
We actually proposed, that's like how possible would it be to use that backbone? I know there's discussions about it, and I think that was brought up to some of the system administrators. How possible would it be to link something to it to use that backhaul? I know that in the past, it's a very robust network, but just like everything else, wind load becomes an issue, and sometimes the microwave gets misaligned. So, you just got to go over there and nudge it in the right direction sometimes. But I know there's discussions of that too.
You mentioned that Starlink was the main thing you ended up using. Is there a bunch of other equipment that you're using to extend the range of, like, your main connection is through Starlink, but you're connecting other things to Starlink to actually serve a broader area?
So in my car, I brought network switches with me, PoE power adapters. I brought wireless routers, just in case we had to build networks. For this, we were pretty much able to just keep it simple, hook up a Starlink directly to an appliance and make it work. For Hurricane Ian, the Sanibel EOC was destroyed. So we relocated the entire EOC to the 3rd floor of a hotel. And so we ended up putting Starlink up on the roof, ran down, threw down a router, threw down the switch, and connected their EOC. Acting EOC was in a hotel room. So we bring equipment with us to extend whatever connection we need to. We were having discussions on if we need to extend over a geographic area while doing like a point-to-point. So some of us have ubiquity equipment to be able to do some point-to-point stuff just in case we need to extend it. Throw it up on a tower and align it. So that's also a possibility. So we were prepared for that if we needed to.
But that wasn't actually needed. So mostly the focus was on getting individual sites access.
For the most part, it was just whatever linking needed to be done between units. And there was one EOC that was dead in the water that had a fiber cut. So it was literally just plugging in, taking out their AT&T, plugging into their router, and put on DHCP, and they had internet. So still using their existing infrastructure and their stuff. So Starlink definitely saved the day.
Do you guys, or does your group interact with any of the other group? Oh, there's more civilian groups that you're also doing like infrastructure repair, like AT&T and such, or
Yes.
other volunteer groups like I know ITDRC, like escorting IT people down here.
Yep. We ran into the IT guys over at what county was that? Where Perry is. That's
Taylor County.
Taylor County. Thank you. At the Taylor County EOC, they had their comms van, which was awesome. They had a lot of toys in there, and they're a nonprofit group of civilians that provide IT needs for after disaster. So there's a lot of groups out there. There's Salvation Army. We've interacted with them. The Baptist Convention, they have a disaster recovery group. Verizon has a deployment team. AT&T has a very big team, and one of the civilian groups that we work very closely with is Motorola. For Hurricane Ian, they sent down a team from Georgia, and they were tower crews. Their job was to get the trunk sites up and running. So I pretty much escorted them wherever they needed to go to tower sites to get them up on towers and get things up and running for them. So we interacted heavily with a lot of civilian groups up there. When I was up in Hurricane Michael, I ran into a bunch of hams for the local ARES group up there, running traffic for their nets, for their shelters. So there's a lot of civilian response to events like this.
You mentioned there's a class, Julio, coming up in February.
Yes.
If you want more information about that, where should they go? And can you send me a link so I can email it out
Sure.
to our team
It's
here
on-
in Broward?
It's on FL Cert Track. So any of the ICS, like G200, 300 trainings, the ComT, ComLs, any of those type of emergency management trainings are done through the Florida Division of Emergency Management. They have what's called Cert Track. It's their portal for classes. I'll send you the Cert Track link
Yeah,
for it.
floridadisaster.org
Yes.
or track.florididisaster.org for anybody who's interested.
And it's a very, very interesting class because it's not technical. You expect you're going to go here for a very technical class. It's actually a lot of ICS, how to write 205s, how to write incident action plans, how to keep planning, the planning P, which is a big part of incident response, of knowing what's going on now, what are your future plans, and what needs to happen to keep these things going. So a lot of it's, dealing with the ICS side of it. So that's why it's such a good class, because as hams, we do this all the time. You tell a ham to build an antenna, they can probably do it. So it's not really a technical class. It's more of a administration and where ham fits into, the incident response system. One of the things I can tell you on the deployment, I had a gentleman from a public safety organization. When I first came on board, he kind of was very standoffish to me. And after the deployment, he came up to me, shook my hand. He's like, I would like to, tell you thank you. I know I seem standoffish, but the way I've always perceived hams they were the fat guys in the Aries vests with the Belfang flip-flops and shorts that got in the way. And that's been a recurring image for a lot of agencies out there. And ham radio has left a bad taste in their mouth. So that's why classes like this are very important, to be able to get yourself on a professional level, learn to speak the right language, behave the right way, and just interact and everyone work on the same page. So I'm hoping that the more people that get involved, the more the typical ham perception can change in the view of public safety. because there's still a big divide between the ham radio community and the public safety community.
Yeah, one of the things I found that worked, we've done it with CERT and we've done it to some extent with ARES races in Broward County, is we require people to wear a uniform.
Yep.
If you noticed in your video, everybody was in a proper uniform. They had the khaki, work pants, the tactical pants, they had a uniform shirt. Anyone that goes down to the EOC in Broward has the khaki pants, a royal blue shirt with the Broward County logo on it. If they go out into the field for Winterfest, we don't let them wear shorts and flip-flops. We ask them to wear the long tactical pants and an ARES shirt and a vest. This way they look official, they look like they're a professional, and that's important because perception is everything. If somebody sees you as the short, fat guy with a Baofeng radio and shorts and flip-flops, you're going to be perceived as some Yahoo that wants to help. If they see you dressed in tactical pants and a uniform shirt, it's a whole different perception. And that's one thing we all need to work on in the ham radio community, is to elevate our dress code.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that, in the video you saw, I was wearing a black polo shirt, black tactical pants. I will be discussing our uniform policy with our team, and probably getting a lighter color shirt, because when you're out there in the sun building antennas and pulling wires and stuff, it gets hot. And especially you haven't showered in a week and a half, a polo sucks. We're looking into other options, but definitely dressing the part makes you, look a lot more serious and a lot more professional. So that's the biggest thing. When you're interacting with the big boys, you got to look like a big boy. So that's one of the biggest things why I recommend taking, especially the Oxcom class. It definitely, you view how the public safety world is in a different light. There's also opportunities to work with public safety. The Florida Communications Unit does a school event every, I think, May. It's called Marconi, Operation Marconi, where they have public safety individuals in the comms world, plus hams, different areas, races, groups, and they come together for a class. And the public safety guys learn from the hams, and the hams learn from the public safety guys. So that's usually in May. So the moment I get any information, I'll send it off to you.
Okay, terrific. And I'll send it out.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's the best of both worlds in one place. So.
Anybody have any other questions for Julio? Hearing none. Julio, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And Brianna, thank you. You have your hand up, Brianna. I just see that now. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. People, I saw people criticizing the ham community about the emergency, and you mentioned the GMRS. I'm a both ham and GMRS operator, and for example, in New York, they state, so if you do emergency communication, go to GMRS better than ham, because they are more affordable. There's no bureaucracy to get a license. So what is the role? You mentioned the GMRS. If you can talk a little bit more, the GMRS, and what you see as a role. And also, like a comment, you mentioned lots of digital technologies, doing routers and everything, and I see the hams are kind of very outdated and digital technologies, and the ham cannot set up a router.
Yep.
So WinLink, WinLink is a ham stuff.
Yes.
Most of the hams cannot set up a WinLink client or even a gateway. So it's a very concern for that. But let's talk about GMRS, if you can talk about the digital something.
So here in Miami, we have the South Dade GMRS Club. It's a radio club. They are 490 something members strong. Me and the emergency manager for City of Homestead, he's the president of the Everglades Radio Club, which is our sister radio club. And we understand everyone has these blister pack bubble wrap Walmart radios at their house. So in a disaster, people are going to use what they have, and more likely it's GMRS and FRS that's out there. And not many of them are going to have a ham license to be on a ham radio, So yeah, we're listening on our net at the EOC, but honestly, where we could hear a lot more traffic is GMRS. So we partnered with the GMRS club. I'm a member of their club, and the president's awesome. I hope he stays president forever. He's
I'm a
an
member
awesome
too.
guy.
Yeah, I'm a member.
And he, he has a group they're motivated. They have connections, so they have tower sites, they have repeaters. They actually have a linked repeater network that covers all the way from almost West Palm down to the Keys now, and they even link Puerto Rico. So the GMRS response is a lot better than ham down here, I would like to say. So they were able to run their own net on GMRS, taking mock information from the community, something happened here, something happened here. And then they were able to pass that on to one of our operators operating the GMRS station at the EOC and pass it to our net. And we were able to put that into Web EOC. So just having that link alone is amazing. So GMRS, it's huge. It's not just GMRS, it's FRS, MERS, CB, anything and everything can be used. Especially in a disaster situation, anything can be used. Now, when it comes to digital stuff, yes, there's a lot of hams out there that, if it isn't analog 25K wide, they don't want it. They don't want anything digital. No D-Star, no DMR, no Fusion. They don't believe in that. I'm a technology person. I do technology for a living. As a ham, you have to understand that you cannot be set in your old ways. You have to be able to accept the future, because no one wants someone who can operate a radio. Any idiot can operate a radio. You're not special. Just because you have a ham license doesn't make you special. Any idiot can sit in front of a radio and use it. It's your technical skills as a ham that you learn, the theory, the how frequency works, how propagation works. Those are the things that a ham can offer to a disaster situation. So staying up with the times and just being open to do whatever. One of the things with if you follow the ICS structure in the communications unit, you're going to see a new position called ITSL. I'm one of, I think, 10 in the state that are certified as an ITSL now, because IT has become such a huge part in a disaster response situation. Back then, it was pretty much the radio guys that got tasked was the tech stuff. So as hams, we're all kind of techie. So it was a good way of bringing in the ham community to be able to help. Just don't think you're going to be there on a radio 24/7. You got to be open to do anything to keep yourself relative to the situation, and to be used and be willing to do anything in a disaster situation. So I think if hams were more open to that and to other modes out there, FTA, digital, WinLink, anything like that, I think hams can get more out there and can participate more in drills and events. So that's what I think if hams were more into the digital stuff.
Thank you.
One of the things that I know that there's a lot of hams out there that, especially the older ones, they're not too computer savvy. They're kind of scared. One of the things I also do is I teach the ICS 100, 200, 700, and 800 as an in-person class. So they may not do well just sitting there flipping through all the classes. I take the information, digest it for them, present it to them with real-world scenarios, and then I sit there and I help them get their FEMA ID and show them how to go and take the test. So some people who are not into the whole reading on your own and they're more into the lecture things, sometimes I do those classes. I'm looking to do one probably in December at the Miami-Dade EOC, and I'm probably going to tie it with a WinLink training. So if I do get a schedule, I'll send you the information, Carol.
Okay.
And I'll probably also do a WinLink class on how to set it up and how to basically send traffic on WinLink.
All right. Yeah, that would be interesting. And I think a lot of people in our group in Broward would be interested in learning more about WinLink.
Okay.
Anybody have any other questions for Julio? All right, Julio, thank you, and thank Brianna for hanging in there with us. Really
problem.
appreciate you being here tonight. Your presentation was very interesting and very informative. I really don't think people know it unless you've been deployed, what actually goes on behind the scenes. You know, I've been deployed to Surfside, Michael, Ian. I didn't go to Idalia, but you know, I went with another group, and just understanding the mission request, how to get a mission number, where you go get fuel, all those little things people don't think about during a disaster. There's lines at a gas station. You can't just pull up to your local Costco and get your gas like you normally do every day. It's not there. So in a disaster scenario, you have to know where and how to get the gas, where to go for food, where you're going to sleep, and all of that. There's just so much that goes on behind the scenes that people don't realize. So you've enlightened us quite a bit on the communication side of it, of the ESF2. So thank you for that.
No problem.
Carol,
All right.
Carol, you mentioned the fuel and the and food and all that. What is the approach that you typically take for that? Is that something that the local EOC has arranged, or is it more improvising?
No, when I deployed, for example, to Hurricane Michael, right after Hurricane Michael, we had a mission number from the state, and I actually deployed with a CERT group. So we were directed to go to a base camp, which was a bunch of tents set up in a field. They had a tent where they served you food. They had a big gasoline tanker that was able to pump gas or diesel into your vehicle. And as long as you had the appropriate paperwork from the state giving you a mission number, you were allowed to eat the food, you were allowed to sleep at the base camp, and they had security checking you in and out to make sure that you belonged. If you didn't belong, they turned you away. If you needed to fuel your car, we were able to do that. One of the trips we actually broke down and we needed a garage. Well, through the state, they were able to provide us with information for a local garage that was affiliated with the county where we were, and we were able to go over there and get a vehicle fixed to get us back on the road from the Panhandle all the way back to Broward. So there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes. John Q. Public just can't pull up to a state depot, a fuel depot, and get fuel. There's guards going in. They check you. If you don't have an appropriate mission number, you cannot go in and fuel up, and you will be arrested if you try to get in.
Yeah, one of the things that for us that I recommend people to do is complete your ARES task book. Try to, if you can, try to get your level 3 task book signed off for ARES. And one of the first things you'll see on the ARES task book is a 72-hour kit. You have to be self-sufficient, because when you roll up to a disaster, logistics hasn't caught up. So your tent city, your base camp, you're setting up sometimes, there's nothing there. So you have to be self-sufficient, be able to provide your own food, your own stuff for at least the first 72 hours. Then after that, then maybe logistics will catch up. So like for Hurricane Ian, the first night we were on our own, then we hooked up with a base camp. And then we ended up actually abandoning base camp because since there's so many people were going in and out, they kind of had like outside for the public. We weren't comfortable with, millions of dollars worth of radio equipment. So we set up our own base camp away from everything, with our own police force. And we ended up just doing our own base camp. So you have to be able to be flexible and on the fly. And with Hurricane Idalia, we did the same thing. We had, close to, let's say, $2 million worth of radio equipment in a trailer. We had to be able to secure that. And you have to think about physical security. And when we first got there, there was nothing. We have to set up. We have to provide our own. So you're eating MREs, crackers, tuna from a can, your bathrooms, whatever tree looks nice. That's the first couple nights. And then from there, then usually logistics catch up. So you have to be prepared for things like that. And you don't think of things like that when you're, sitting at the EOC in a radio room. When you're on the field, it's a whole different story. So if you've been deployed, you understand all the little things like that. One of the things like I learned from just my first deployment to my second deployment, I carry an air compressor now with a bunch of those tire plug kits because some of the guys caught flats just from debris. So I bring that now because just it happens on a deployment. And normally if you get a flat, you just go to a tire shop. When the tire shop is in pieces and the roof is collapsed, there's nowhere to go. So you have to think, be prepared for things like that.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, for the third time. Thank you, Julio.
Yes, thank you, Julio.
No
And
problem. Thanks for having me.
what we would like to do here in Broward, Jeff and I, is start planning the 2024 set with you early so we can incorporate all of us into it and make it a big SET.
So I've already started planning actually for the next one. And I think I'm going a little bit overboard because I'm bringing in multiple counties, Collier County, Broward, Monroe, Palm Beach. I'm also bringing outside agencies like the Southern Baptist Convention, Salvation Army, Coast Guard Auxiliary, the Civil Air Patrol. So I'm bringing in a lot of groups that at one time used to participate with us. And I'm trying to get everyone back on the same page. So
All right,
gonna be a lot of
excellent.
work.
Let Jeff and I know what we can do to assist, and we'll be happy to up in Broward.
No problem.
Jeff is Civil Air Patrol radio certified, so
Perfect.
that'll be a help.
All right, cool. But yeah, I'll send you what I have so far.
Okay, that sounds great. All right, if nobody else has any questions, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.
Thank you.